Here's what I've been up to since the start of July. I'm going to talk you through a book haul, a couple trips that I took, some book reviews of the books that I've been reading, and then also talking about eating because I've been eating great food and making great food. So at the end of June, I went to Cape Cod for a family thing, Cape Cod and Boston. I really like Cape Cod. I think it's lovely. I think it's cute and like quaint. I love that coastal vibe. The food was really great. I had the best lobster roll that I've ever had. It was so like bare bones, but it was perfect. And then I did a lot of beaching. I went to the beach a lot. I just love a coastal beach moment. It just feels really great. And everything was foggy, which helped make it feel really like eerie and creepy and weird. But it's still beautiful. It's an interesting kind of energy. And then we popped over to Martha's Vineyard for a quick day trip. So we stayed in like the touristy area, which isn't ideal for me, but like it was still really fun, still really cute. I really liked the ferry ride. That was fun. While I was in Cape Cod, I was reading The Brittle Age by Donatella di Pietrantonio, translated by Anne Goldstein, who does all of Elena Ferrante's translations. So I started this at the end of June, finished it in July. And the foggy vibe of Cape Cod really helped with this because this is a literary thriller, like very light on the thriller, very light on the like spooky vibes. It's about a mother and a daughter who the mother's the narrator, and it's 5 points in the mother's life that sort of tell the story of a tragedy that happened when she was really young in the town that had to do with her father and their land and something that happened there. And then the daughter and her trying to figure out what her daughter is doing, what her daughter's up to, because her daughter goes to school and then during the pandemic has to come back. And they just like cannot connect, cannot communicate. There's like something blocking it, and that distance was so palpable and interesting. The language is very precise and sharp, and like has every word has a purpose. And I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was very like the writing is simple, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But then it got me thinking like in Italian, simple language sounds more lyrical, sounds more sing-songy. Like that's just how Italian is. And so I'm like, does it feel more elevated in Italian? Not that it needs to feel elevated. I thought it was really great regardless. But like when I go to Italy, I don't speak Italian, but when I go to Italy, I speak Italian. Okay, you know what I'm like. I go out there and I try, and it really does feel sing-songy and like there's a lot going into just a simple sentence, even though structurally it's very simple. And so maybe that's what's going on with Italian. I don't know. I can't remember any other. I have read other Italian translations, but I can't remember specifically. I feel like Elena Ferrante is also very like straight to the point, straightforward. Um, but yeah, I really love this. This was fun. And Women in Translation Month is coming up in August. This would be a great pick for that. It's like a very eerie, creepy character study, but really just like a beautiful story of these two people. Um, and also womanhood and power and men in parentheses negative. Yeah, I love this. And then I went to Boston for a couple days because I was in Cape Cod, and so why not just like hop over? I've never been to Boston, which is interesting because I've been to Massachusetts before, never flown into Boston either. So I don't know what I've been doing. Driving mostly. But yeah, I enjoyed Boston. It's like really pretty. There's a couple neighborhoods that I would definitely go back to if I was going back to Boston. And what's interesting is I like cannot pinpoint what the vibe or energy of Boston is. I feel like New York, I get it. Chicago, I get it. But it's like Boston's sort of in between both of those or like toned down a bit. Like it's just interesting. I think I have to spend more time there to figure out what it is about Boston that I like can't figure out. That's not negative. That's just like I don't know. There's something about it there that I like can't quite read. I did a lot of used book shopping. So here is a little haul. I have 6 books and they're all used, which is really cool. And most of them are old. I think 3 of them are 1960s, one of them is 1950, one of them is 1970, and then one of them is 2017. But mostly they're old. I'll start with the newest one, which is War of the Foxes by Richard Sicken. This is a poetry collection. He wrote Crush, which is like an iconic gay poetry collection, and this is his follow up to that. And I haven't heard anything about this, but I really loved Crush, and I think it did something really special and like visceral. But this is supposed to be about the natural world and the order of things. So I don't know. I'm curious to see if this will have the same effect on me as Crush did. But stay tuned for that. And then I have a book from the 1950s, which is Anais Nai's A Spy in the House of Love. Really slim novel. And this is about a femme fatale, like a sexy, sexy lady. And it's her grappling with her sexual desire. It's essentially asking the question, like, can sexual gratification be attained without consequence? So very curious to see if I like this. It has really great reviews and people talk about it very positively. So I'm excited about that one. And then I have James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. I've never read this in full, and that feels like a crime. I love James Baldwin, and I know I'm going to love this. So I feel like I'm just going to read it really soon because that's just the way things go. We Think the World of You by J.R. Ackerley is, again, from the 1960s, and sort of a hidden gay classic. This is about a man who was in love with another man, his lover, and that other man had a family, like whatever, the whole thing going on, but everyone knew about the gay lover, and then that man goes to jail, and his lover has to like grapple with that, figure it out. He's our narrator, and he also starts to take care of that man's dog. And then I don't know what happens after that. Very curious to see. And also like what a queer classic from the 1960s, like a hidden gem maybe. And I was also looking up this author, and there's another book by this same author that's like about someone's dog. And so I'm like, maybe that's just like an obsession. I don't know. But very curious to see what I think about this one. And then I have Richard Wright's 8 Men, which is also from the 1960s. This is 8 stories about Black men living in the white world. That's like how it's described. And I'm very curious to see how I feel about this. When I was looking up authors to potentially do my year with, Richard Wright was one of my options because I've never read any of his work and I'm very curious about it. So I'm excited to start here and see how I feel about it. And then I have Abigail by Magda Szabo, which was translated by Len Rix from Hungarian. And this is about a young girl during World War II, a teenage girl, and she goes to boarding school, and then it's like, you know, boarding school vibes, but things are really strict, and it's just, she's sort of rebellious, and like, that's sort of the tension there. I've heard really amazing things about this. I'm excited to read it. I think I'll read it during August, during Women in Translation Month, because why not? I think I can hold off until then. And yeah, I'm just excited to read this and see how I feel about it because I've heard really great things. While I was in Boston, I went to Cambridge, which is just like across the water, and that's where Harvard is. I was so disappointed because I got there and I was like, wait, it doesn't look familiar. And so I Googled it, and unfortunately, Legally Blonde was filmed in California. So here we are. That's not like why I went to Harvard or whatever. Harvard was still beautiful. And the food is so good. The food in Cambridge was amazing. The food in Boston was amazing. I ate so well. Yeah, really gagged by the food because it was so good. And then when I was flying home, I was stuck on the tarmac for 3 hours. And I had finished my book that I was reading, The Brittle Age, before then. And so I picked up another book and I read it and I finished it. I finished it on the tarmac because what else was I going to do? So I read Tramps Like Us by Joe Westmoreland, which was sent to me by his agent, which is really cool. This is a story. It's autofiction. And there's a section at the end where he talks about his process of writing this and autofiction in general, and it was really fascinating. I loved it. I sent it to like all my writer friends because I was like, this is what we've been talking about. This is what we've been saying. And I really liked this book. So it's essentially a story of debauchery. Like it starts with a young queer man, boy, really, who is witness to a lot of abuse and then receives a lot of abuse from his family or from his father specifically, um, and then grows up to be queer and then moves around and does the whole thing. It's set in the 1970s, so if you can imagine like a Woodstocky sort of vibe, and then he goes to SF and he goes to New York, and it's just like a lot of partying, a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, a lot of drugs, a lot of sex, a lot of partying, and then AIDS sort of comes into the picture, and it becomes a story about resilience in the face of this tragedy that's happening to your community and things that are going on around you, the people that you love, you're losing the people that you love. It's just like I've read those stories before, right? And yet this managed to really do something different and do something special to it. It's written in a really interesting way. Everything is really matter of fact. Everything is really plain. It's just there's not a lot of like overly explained stuff. There's nothing that's overwritten. It's like it's just telling you the facts of what happened in a really really great way that I liked. And I think that helped for the story. Although it did take me a minute to get into it, but I was sitting on the tarmac for 3 hours, so I read it in one shot. And I really loved it. It was beautiful. This was originally published in 2001. Oh my god, literally in 2001 because it was published on 9/11, and it was sort of the glitter of books. Like it just got forgotten because of what was going on, which of course. And even the author in the little section at the end says like I even forgot about my own book. But it got repicked up by Eileen Miles. They sent it to an editor at FSG, and it just got like more attention and more love, the love that it deserved the first time around. And it's just beautiful to see it have like a second life and a second wind. And I really, really loved this. I thought this feels like a seminal queer classic, the kind of story that's like telling the AIDS story from like a first person perspective, first-hand account. Yeah, I really really love this. And then I got home, and ever since I've been home, I've been trying to do summer right. I've been trying to like really indulge in July and like enjoy the sun and like do things and see people and like all this stuff. And so I've been doing a lot of that, which has been great.
Yes. I don't believe
And I'm also reading a big freaking book. This is Fox by Joyce Carol Oates, and I read Blackwater by Joyce Carol Oates a couple years ago. No, last year. And I was floored. It was incredible. The writing was really really great, and it was really experimental and doing fun things. And so I was like, I was always under the impression that Joyce Carol Oates was like a book that you would find on your mom's bedside table, not in a bad way, but in a way that like made it not necessarily for me. But I don't know if I'm right about that. This is over 600 pages. This is like on the syllabus. This is summer reading. You know, that's what's going on. It just published actually June 17th. So just a couple weeks ago. But this is about an English teacher at this prestigious academy who turns up dead. And then it's sort of the story of how that happened, how people were like obsessed with him, the infatuation of his students with him, his infatuation with his own students, all sorts of stuff. I have no idea. I'm only a couple hundred pages in. So I don't know the whole story yet. But it isn't scratching the itch. I thought this would scratch the itch of like being a literary thriller. I mean, it is a literary thriller. I think it's just not spooky enough to be like my summer ween book, if you will. But I'm liking it so far, and I will keep you posted if I finish it and love it. That's it. That was my July so far. I hope you're having a really great time. I hope you're enjoying the sun. I hope you are eating some really delicious food, making some delicious food. Yeah, I think that's what I am trying to do for the rest of summer is just really enjoy summer and like the moments that we have. I don't know why this summer feels so special and like there's something there that I want to like soak up, but that's what I'm doing and I hope you're doing the same. I'd love to know what you're reading, so let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions for a summer ween book. I am all ears because that's what I'm looking for next or soon or I don't know when, but I really want to read something spooky. So that's next on my radar. And yeah, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed and thanks for watching.